The GI Research Foundation was able to produce this podcast with a generous sponsorship from Metro Infusion Centers.
Before we get into our episode, I want to take a moment to talk about something that's really at the heart of our mission. Early career researchers are the future of digestive health. When they get early funding for bold new ideas that can improve treatments, prevent disease, or even lead us towards cures, they're able to build the kind of long, meaningful careers that truly change lives. And supporting those rising leaders is something we care deeply about. That's why the GI Research Foundation's Emerging Leaders Council, or ELC, raises money each year to fund the Young Investigator Awards. These awards help promising early researchers move their work forward. And today's guest is a great example. She's both a practicing doctor and a researcher, and her clinical work is already helping people with IBD live healthier, fuller lives. If you're an early or mid-career professional and you care about this mission, the ELC is a really meaningful way to get involved. As a member, you can actually help choose the research projects we fund. If you want to learn more, just visit giresearchfoundation.org.
Welcome to Visceral, a podcast of the GI Research Foundation. I'm your host, Anna Gomberg, and today we have a very special guest, Emma Levine. Emma Levine is a second-year fellow at the University of Chicago Medicine Inflammatory Bowel Disease Center. Dr. Levine went to medical school and completed her residency at the University of California, San Francisco, where she did colon cancer research. But since starting her fellowship at the University of Chicago, she's worked primarily with Dr. David Rubin and turned her attention to another important aspect of living with inflammatory bowel disease, sleep and sleep quality. She most recently received funding for research looking at the association between sleep and Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis. Welcome, Dr. Levine.
Thank you so much for having me here today. I really appreciate it.
We're delighted to have you. It is such a treat to get to talk to fellows because we often talk to faculty in different stages of their research. And to hear from someone who's really at the beginning of their career is such a special perspective to have, especially since you are going to be the future of the research in inflammatory bowel disease. So, why don't you get us started by describing a little bit or telling us what you know about the relationship between sleep and inflammatory bowel disease?
Absolutely. So I think I would start by saying that sleep is crucial to everyone, no matter whether you have inflammatory bowel disease or not. And there's a lot of research and studies that are looking into that. Dr. Rubin here at the University of Chicago and his team did a prospective observational cohort study to assess the correlation of sleep quality and disease activity in inflammatory bowel disease. And their data did show that there was a strong association between clinically active inflammatory bowel disease and poor sleep quality. And they also demonstrated that patients in clinical remission with abnormal sleep have a high likelihood of subclinical disease activity. And so I think what that really highlights is that there is a strong correlation between your sleep quality and your disease activity. One of our major goals in the research of inflammatory bowel disease is to help patients live lives where inflammatory bowel disease doesn't take over their life and not something that they have to think about on a daily basis. And so really realizing that something as simple as sleep affects their disease, I think that's really exciting in a way that it's a target that we can focus on.
That's great. You mentioned subclinical disease in your description. What is the difference between clinical and subclinical? What do those terms mean to you?
Absolutely. So for me, clinical evidence of disease is when patients have symptoms. So they're having, bloody bowel movements, a lot of diarrhea, they're having urgency, like the need to rush to the bathroom. When we don't have clinical disease, that means that they have one form bowel movement a day. They're not rushing to the bathroom. They're not seeing blood in their stool. But when we do an endoscopy, we see that they have evidence of active disease endoscopically or histologically. So when we take biopsies, we see it under the slides.
So histological, meaning that you can see it at a cellular level?
Yeah, like microscopic level.
Yeah, microscopic. Very interesting. I think for most patients, those clinical symptoms are what we're really thinking about all the time. So that's interesting to hear that even if we are feeling clinically okay, there may be something going on in our gut that we need to be paying attention to. Can you describe your study and what your study is designed to elucidate about the relationship between sleep and IBD?
Absolutely. Our study aims to use metabolomics to identify biomarkers that can clarify the relationship between sleep disturbances and inflammation and inflammatory bowel disease. And we want to characterize metabolomic profiles linked to sleep quality as well as disease activity, and to correlate sleep measures with inflammatory markers over time. Ultimately, our goal is to provide insight into disease mechanisms and open the door to safe non-pharmacologic interventions, such as improving sleep hygiene or targeting sleep regulation to complement existing medical therapies and improve long-term outcomes for more than 6 million people worldwide who are affected by inflammatory bowel
Mm.
disease.
You mentioned metabolomics. What is a metabolomic, or what are metabolomics, or what is metabolomic profiling, which seems to be an integral part of your study?
Yeah, I'm actually learning a lot about it myself. My understanding of metabolomics is that it's the study of metabolites, so smaller molecules and different products of the cell metabolism. Metabolomic profiling, from my understanding, is an analysis of these small molecule metabolites and how they interact in a larger system. And we can use these biomarkers for diseases to assess treatment response and better understand disease mechanisms and progression of disease.
I see. That seems really definitely a deeper insight into the way that our gut microbiome is functioning than a lot of the more preliminary work that we've talked about, both on this podcast and elsewhere. That's really interesting. So with this study, where are you at? What are some of the challenges that you're facing? You're an early career researcher, so I would love to hear what that experience is like for you.
Yeah, so right now we're still in the early stages. We're collecting data. We have an incredible database of patients who have kindly helped with, all of our research, answering our surveys. And so we're using a lot of that data right now and analyzing it to understand over the time course, is there a correlation between sleep quality and disease, evidence of disease and inflammation. One of the major challenges that we are facing right now is understanding how to use metabolomics to correlate that with disease activity. What metabolites do we want to look at that are associated with evidence of inflammation, and what metabolites are also associated with evidence of poor sleep quality?
Absolutely. Um, is this something where you are working with other labs and other people at the University of Chicago?
Yeah, we're very grateful to be working with Dr. Sidebottom and her team. They've been incredible support to us and helping us better understand the metabolomic portion of our project.
Wonderful. Um, as an early career researcher, what surprises you about developing a study like this and really shepherding it through the different stages of research? What have you learned?
Um, I I've learned a lot. This is actually probably one of my first projects where I've really taken the lead, and so it's been a huge growth experience for me, learning the different steps of having a project, of moving it forward, but also how important it is to have an incredible team. And then obviously, I'm very grateful to the GI Research Foundation for funding this project, as it has allowed me to pursue research that I'm truly passionate about. And I think not only for me, but for a lot of people who are, early in their careers, they are taking a leap of faith and giving us the opportunity to, not only advance science, but improve the lives of people with GI diseases.
Absolutely. I think it's such, I mean, we at the GI Research Foundation know that investing in or both early stage, but also early career people, is really the future and the best hope we have for treating inflammatory bowel disease and caring for patients. I know that you're using a couple of different measures to look at some of these correlations. Can you tell me a little bit about the measures that you're using in your study? And measures meaning like the instruments or the inventories, or some of the tools that you're using to look at some of these things, just to get into the nitty gritty a little bit for some of our process nerds.
One of the interesting things about research is that not only are we able to use blood samples to collect data and better understand, evidence of disease, whether patients are in remission or active inflammation, but one of the greatest tools is actually utilizing sleep quality measures and interacting with patients. So utilizing the Pittsburgh Sleep Quality Index, the Promise Sleep Disturbance Scale, even using things like wrist actigraphy or what I think of as like my Apple Watch when I'm sleeping and monitoring. And so we have a lot of different modalities to gather validated sleep data.
Um, but what do you mean by wrist actigraphy, or what does that mean?
Yeah, so the way I think of it overall is that a lot of these different watches that we wear, they have the ability to monitor, our heart rate when we're sleeping, measure different other modalities, like when are we waking up, and also even assess what level of sleep we're in. Are we in REM? Are we, what stages of sleep we're in? And so we can utilize all of those different data points to help us correlate that with these sleep quality indexes, to understand, is there a correlation? Is the what we're seeing on the watch matching with what the patient is reporting to?
Interesting. Do you find that, just anecdotally, do you find that there is a lot of correlation, or do people say, "Oh, I sleep terribly," and you're like, your watch says you sleep fine?
Yeah, so based off of Dr. Rubin's research that he did, there is a pretty strong correlation.
That makes me feel better. That
Yes.
makes me feel like I know what's going on inside my own body then. You mentioned that you look at inflammatory markers. What kind of inflammatory markers do you look at?
Yeah, so we're looking at C-reactive protein, fecal calprotectin. So a lot of the common stool tests and blood work that we monitor for patients with inflammatory bowel disease.
So you mentioned C-reactive protein and fecal calprotectin. What are those biomarkers and where do you find them?
Yeah, so C-reactive protein is a test that we order. It's a blood-based test, and it is looking at it's a protein that's produced by the liver in response to inflammation. And so when there's evidence of inflammation, it is high. And so that's one of the markers that we use. It's not specific to inflammatory bowel disease, but it's one of the markers that we use to suggest that a patient may be having evidence of inflammation. And then the fecal protectin, that is a stool-based test that we also use to monitor evidence of inflammation. And it's a protein that's found in white blood cells that is released into the stool.
Ah, very interesting. So lots of different ways to get at this. Dr. Levine, I think what is really interesting to me and probably to a lot of our listeners is that you are a second year fellow. You are still very much in the thick of training. What is that like to be helming a study like this? And what are some of the competing priorities that you have to negotiate with as someone who is literally still being trained as a gastroenterologist, and learning about what will be your career and the rest of for the rest of your academic career?
Yeah, I mean, I have loved my time at the University of Chicago as a GI fellow. I feel incredibly supported. I have amazing co-fellows as well. And, every day we're learning something new, seeing new diseases that we have only read about in textbooks. And so it's been challenging, but an incredible experience with a lot of opportunity for growth. I think also, learning all these different endoscopic skills, it's not something that you learn all at once. And so, every day, we're growing and learning. And so challenging myself in that front has been incredible. And I'm very grateful for all the support that our attendings and co-fellows have given us. I think also finding that balance with research has been challenging at times, but Dr. Rubin is an incredible mentor and he has an amazing team of people who are keeping me accountable and sure that, there is progress in the research, but also knowing that if I'm focusing more on an inpatient clinical rotation, that they're there to support me through that process. And so I think I've been very grateful for the balance that everyone has and the grace that everyone has given me.
It's such an interesting time in your life. And I'm so glad that you're here at the University of Chicago with us and dedicating your time and talents to this important work. You are really the future of Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis research. And we are so lucky to have you and so thrilled that the GI Research Foundation has decided to invest in you and your research. So thank you so much for being here. And I know we will talk to you again when we hear more, when the study gets going and we know a little bit more. I know you're very much in the thick of it, and I can't wait to hear about your analyses and what you find. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time.
If you're living with IBD and you're worried that your sleep might be affecting how you feel, it's definitely worth bringing up with your healthcare provider. Sleep issues are common, and talking about them can open the door to support and strategies that may improve your overall health and your day-to-day experience with IBD.
Today's episode is made possible by Metro Infusion Centers. Metro Infusion Centers, with over 220 infusion centers nationwide, providing trusted and life-saving therapies to patients for over 30 years in a comfortable and cost-effective environment. Thank you for listening to this episode of the podcast Visceral from the GI Research Foundation. This episode was written, edited, and produced by me, Anna Gomberg, and edited and mixed by Luke Pahalski. Special thanks to the talented Michael Collins Dowden, who composed our theme music, and executive producer Allison Thielen. We hope you will join us next time, and until then, to access other podcasts and learn more about research to treat, prevent, and cure digestive diseases, please visit the website at giresearchfoundation.org. Please like and subscribe to Visceral on all your favorite podcast platforms, and until next time, listen to your gut.